All right, everyone, let's get started to keep time in mind. Thank you for joining us today to talk about the Department of Defense's SBIR and STTR open topic funding opportunities. This is a very exciting time within the DOD ecosystem and the SBIR and STTR ecosystem. My name is Melissa Tenek, and I am a program manager with New Mexico FAST, where we provide SBIR and STTR support for small businesses accessing that network. And then also we're joined by Kathy, if she wants to introduce herself.
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mute button there. Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Foster. I'm here at the Arrowhead Center. Happy to be here to help demystify and shed some light on SBIR and STTR. Welcome.
Awesome. And today the presentation is going to be split into kind of two halves. The first part, we're going to start talking about SBIR and STTR in general, just to give you a little background understanding on what this program is, what kind of stuff does it fund, and who participates there. Then we're going to talk about DOD, SBIR, STTR opportunities, and then we're going to jump into those open topics, what is available, what is required, and we'll end with some resources for you to use as you approach SBIR and STTR. And keep in mind, everything today is recorded, and we will be sharing the slides with you after the fact.
Thank you, Melissa. So I want to just talk about SBIR, STTR. Those acronyms stand for the Small Business Innovation Research Program and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program. So we're really going to kind of take this, general overview of these mechanisms. These initiatives were designed to offer funding opportunities to small businesses, including, folks new to government contracting, to develop innovative technologies and solutions that are really addressing needs with the Department of Defense. That's what we're focusing here today. But overall, that program is not only fulfilling needs with various agencies, but also solutions that it can improve, the lives of, the nation as a whole, the world as a whole. So we can get started here. Once again, this slide deck was developed to not only give you an overview and a presentation, but it makes a great reference resource as well. So to be eligible to participate in the SBIR, STTR, your organization, you have to be a for-profit business registered within the United States. So more than 50% has to be controlled by one or more individuals who are citizens or permanent residents, aliens of the United States. So what that means is at least 50% of your company has to be someone who is a citizen of the United States. That is a requirement across the board, and no more than 500 employees. So when we're talking small business, we really do mean small business. Statistics show that several businesses maybe have 10 or fewer employees. So if you are a small business, it's a great way to get some of your technologies and your innovations moving forward. But with that said, a technical merit is very important in all of these funding mechanisms. But you also need that commercialization process as well. And we always discourage including any type of equipment in your budget because it is something that can cause a problem later on. But and this is also something that can't be already developed. This, once again, has to be something that either the federal government is looking for or has a potential to really improve or solve a solution that with an injection of federal funding would come to fruition. So when we're considering SBIR, STTR, there's several there's reasons why. You may hear this term a lot, non-dilutive funding. That means that this is not a loan. This is actually a grant, or a contract where the government is providing funding for the activity. In return, you will have to provide, progress and what's happened with the funding. So you will be held accountable for it, but that is not something you have to pay back. This is really a great way to stand up technology. And then when you get to the investment, we start looking for investments. This shows, that this has been vetted. The feds think this is a great idea. So that's something to really keep in mind. Really, if you're, kind of looking for ways to show feasibility or approving a concept, this is a great way to fund that work. Due diligence, like I said, for that follow-on funding, this shows, some experience in vetting already. And then, it's really hard to be a small business, always looking to self-fund. Not everyone can go on Shark Tank. So this is a great way to really have some validation without having to pay anybody back. With this small business, if you are submitting an SBIR, you get to keep those intellectual property and data rights. That's very important. And then this does position you for sole source government contract, and we'll be highlighting some of that in the webinar today. Sorry, I don't know why my mouse is going a little crazy. I will try to control it here. Okay, so this is just an overview on the SBIRSTTR program, and these are a lot of numbers. They're really big, but this is how we get technologies out into the market. Really, this is seed funding for great ideas. There's statistic here, more than 7,000 are awarded every day. So SBIR has this huge, what we call set aside, and looking at 3.2% of the extramural research budget is greater than 100 million per year. When we're looking at STTR, this is a sister program. Not every agency that has SBIR has STTR, but it's really to advance technologies that are coming out of research institutions. It's a way for those technologies to be commercialized as well. And that one is, a little, we're looking at big numbers. So this is a lot of money, 3.8 for SBIR compared to the 518 million for STTR. So when we're talking about your data rights and IP protection, if you are already dealing with IP and patents, then you know how important this is, because you can go ahead and if you have a provisional, or even if you don't have any patent data yet, but you have some going forward, this is a great way to really start to build out that idea to get your technologies ready for patents. So we've seen provisional patent ideas go through, some of those application and utility patents go through, but just so you know, when you're the small business with an SBIR, you get to keep all of that. We have several resources on IP within the FAST website. So this is just a high level overview. If you'd like to learn more, we can point you to that. This, I know a lot of folks can get a little nervous, but the federal government has limited use of the data. It's really to see how to make sure the investment is sound. They don't receive any type of license, whether patented or not. The other way to really get some more information is going to the USPTO website. They have great webinars and information as well. This could be its own webinar. So once again, this is just a high level overview. So we're, SBIR and STTR, they can't be used interchangeably. So usually, for shorthand purposes, we say SBIR. But, the differences here with SBIR and STTR, this is a great list. Keep it with you, because when you're kind of deciding, should I go for an SBIR or go for an STTR, there's a few differences you're going to have to want to, use. So SBIR is really when the small business is heavily involved and they don't necessarily need or want to work with an institution, a research institution. So this may be the way to go. You can fund about 33% of your award to another source. That means contractors, subawards, et cetera. With STTR, you have to keep 40%, but the rest can go to other sources, a minimum of 30% to the research institution, but you don't quite have that 33% gap, so you could go higher. Now, we were just talking about IP rights. When you're the small business with an SBIR, you don't necessarily have to worry about IP as much, because once you start interacting with the research institution, that's where some negotiations can come through, because we all know if something is discovered during a process or the partnership, there could be some IP issues that come up. So that is something that is required in the STTR. I love this graphic. I was telling Melissa, when we were looking at it, it's just something easy to go through, because when you are looking at your budget, that's probably one of the most difficult pieces of an SBIR or STTR. This breaks it down for you. So if you, like I said again, if you know that you really need to rely on a research institution, you may want to consider STTR, because you're allowed a little more discretionary funds, where that 30% can go to the research institution on top of the required 30%. But once again, you'll have to deal with IP issues. If you know that you're the small business and you just need some help with a subcontract, SBIR is definitely the way to go. This is a gated program. That means it happens in phases. So phase 0 is when we help you get ready, and the FAST program through the Small Business Administration, and what we have here in New Mexico, we support you through the process. There's an intake process. If you're not already working with us, we have ways for you to join in, and we support you in various ways. You know, we have webinars, we have workshop proposal cohorts and micro grants that you can apply for to help you get ready to submit your SBIR. And then applying for phase 1, that's really where you are going after your concept, and that can award as much as $250,000 to get you started. That's seed money there. It's about a 15% success rate. It is a highly competitive process, but we're here to help you. When you're looking at phase 2, that's where the real work comes in. That's where the big money comes in, because they're looking for prototype development going beyond that feasibility or proof of concept phase. And then there is a direct to phase 2 or a second phase 2. It depends on the funding mechanism that, you almost have it done with that first phase 2, but you may need a little more. And then phase 3, no federal funding, but that is where you are concentrating on the commercialization process and getting your technology out into the marketplace. Several agency differences here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this since we are focused on the Department of Defense today. But if you're considering some other agencies, this kind of gives you a general overview when the applications open, when they're due, what type of phases they offer and which type of mechanism. The solicitations are very important. So you think you may have a match with Department of Defense, but then maybe NSF has, an alignment there as well. So this is a great reference. Like I said, but these programs vary from agency to agency, and they can vary from year to year as well. This is a big slide, I know, but it's actually a great reference point as well, because these are the SBIR programs and their agencies, but then all of the subcategories, the sub-agencies, the pieces, the institutes, the departments within those agencies who are offering these seed funding mechanisms. So this is a lot of information to take in, but this is very important, especially look here at the Department of Defense. All of these departments here have ways to help you with your technologies. And so we'll be looking at some of these departments and their open topics today. DOD is probably the largest, they participate with the most funding in the SBIR process as well. So taking a deeper dive into the Department of Defense SBIRSTTR program, this slide, this information is just a little bit old, but it really breaks down on what the goal is and how they're investing and what the results are. So this is a great infographic to kind of, as you're doing some discernment over, SBIRSTTR with the Department of Defense, some reference points here. Now, the one thing about the DOD, and Melissa will continue to bring this up, this is a contract-based opportunity. So they're looking for something that will benefit their department, but also at the same time, this technology could benefit the Department of Defense in some way, shape, or form, but also the commercial civilian market as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Very directed solicitations with a very distinct process here. So, depending on department, it's going to be a varying performance period. That is the time you have to complete the work you have proposed. And then these required registrations, we're here to help you with those, but also the agency was formerly known as PTAC. It's Apex Accelerator now. This is their specialty. They will guide you through the process step by step, because if you have not done this already, it can be a little tricky, time consuming, and it's sometimes, you can have issues that pop up where you may need some help. Okay, I kind of flew through that because, like I said, this is just meant to be a very overview. I want to save time for the meat of this webinar, but want to go ahead and go over the proposal process. So, you know, these are just some little checklists that you can keep in mind when you're considering this. Make sure that you are a small business concern. That's what the SBC stands for, and that means 500 employees or fewer. You have to be a for-profit business. You know, that majority ownership in the owned by U.S. citizens. And the work has to be done here. And then, you know, your innovative idea, is this something that is responding to a specific need of the agency, especially when we're considering Department of Defense? Because as you see, these open topic solicitations are very specific, and that they're trying to solve a need that has been identified. Registrations, once again, we're here to help you. I need to tell you, the first step in any type of award procurement process, anything you're going through, you have to register for the System Award Management. You'll hear the acronym SAM thrown a lot. That's the first step. And once you have that SAM award, these other pieces come together because you need this number here. The unique identity identifier has been replaced by another mechanism. If you've participated in SBIR or any type of granting mechanism in the past, you may recognize DUNS. That is no longer. They are now going with UEI, and I always get that acronym mixed up. So as you're thinking about your technology or your project, the best thing to do is, you know, kind of create a mechanism we have to share with you as a quad chart. But you can see it helps you organize, you know, does this fit within the agency? I think it does. But to really make sure that to prove your hypothesis is to talk to an agency official. That's usually in the form of a program manager or someone who's running the solicitation, because they can help you to a certain point, you know, if there's a fit, because this is a big process and can be confusing sometimes. But we're here to help you with that as well. So, you know, when you're participating in SBIR, STTR applications, each proposal package, you know, they have different requirements, different nuances. When we're talking about, you know, especially the Department of Defense, there are some pieces that are not found in other agency proposals, but really you're going to be, you know, talking about that project, presenting the technical merit. Another huge thing that goes across the board is how your team is made up, and that is where you're going to need to show that you have the human capital, access to resources or facilities if you need, and then agencies can have some separate document requirements that would be laid out in the solicitation. One of the, you know, best things that, you know, when you hear you say, oh yeah, that makes sense, but putting it into practice, sometimes it's hard. Once you have your proposal package ready, make sure and have someone review it. It works really well if someone in your team or within your ecosystem knows about your project, but is not very familiar, because they can be that, you know, neutral third-party reviewer to point out things that would come across where you think they make sense, but maybe to the reviewer of the agency, it doesn't. So it's always a great idea to get that third party to look over your complete package. Okay. And please, I know and I'm a procrastinator, oh my goodness, but saving the submission until the deadline is never a good idea, because as we know, especially dealing with technology, you never know what can happen. And Melissa said this the other day, and I loved it, because she said, these agencies don't care if the whole, you know, internet breaks across the world. And it's, you know, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but it is, because as responsible business owners, you know, the expectation is, you know, to allow for any problems or mistakes that happen with submitting. So a couple days early is a good practice, because if something comes up, if a system is down, if the help desk is overwhelmed, if you need help desk information, that additional time will make sure that you get the proposal in time, because you do not want to spend 120 hours plus and then have it rejected because you missed the deadline. The waiting period is probably the hardest part. It can take anywhere from 30 days to 6 months, depending on the funding opportunity, and sometimes even a little bit longer than that if they're waiting for additional documentation or need additional information. So with that, I just like to close up that section saying with SBIR and STTR processes, no matter which agency you're applying to, we're here to help you with that process. And you can find us through NMFAST and look through that program and see what we have to offer. Now I'd like to turn this over to Melissa, and we will continue to answer your questions in chat. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Kathy. You can jump over to the next slide. So traditionally, SBIR, STTR, they have broad agency announcements, especially with contracting agencies. They usually have a very specific requirement for what will be accepted based on topics that they release. But recently, the SBIR and STTR programs were reauthorized and extended through 2024. And this Extension Act required the Department of Defense in particular to establish these open innovation topics. And the goal of these topics is to increase the transition of commercial technology to the Department of Defense, to expand small business non-traditional industrial base, increase commercialization derived from Department of Defense investments, and to expand the ability of qualifying small businesses to propose technology. So what they realized was that those topics, they are very, very specific. Some small businesses may have technologies that can be revolutionary to the Department of Defense, but that window or that communication piece wasn't established. So with these open topics, they're hoping to reach more small businesses that may be applicable. Next slide. Okay. So like I mentioned, conventional topics are typically topics that were released under DOD. They specify the desired technological objectives and the outputs. They'll actually outline the objectives that you need to complete, technological risks that you need to overcome in order to be eligible for their programs. But but that also prevents, the Department of Defense to solve problems that they might not even have identified yet. So what they're looking to utilize these open topics for is to close capability gaps, improve performance, and provide technological advances in existing capabilities. The proposal requirements and processes are going to be very different between service components, and not all service components have released open topics yet. Some service components are waiting until the end of the year. Keep in mind, by the end of the year, all service components need to have at least one round of these open innovation topics. The reauthorization process also requires these open topics to be released at least once a year. Some agencies have already been releasing these open topics and have already been established, and there's more than one release. But a lot of these newcomers to the open topic space, they are going to be releasing at least one topic by the end of the year. And I'm going to put a lot of generalities here. There is requirements of DOD as a whole, but all of the service components can include their own award ceilings, requirements, different proposal packages. So generally with these open topics, small businesses are limited to one proposal submission per topic. Generally, technical and business assistance funds are not allowed to be proposed during open topics because it is a shorter period of performance for phase one, typically from 3 to 5 months. And generally, the service components will prefer technology or innovations that are at a higher technology readiness level. So what they're really looking for is technologies that, may be ready for market. They just need a few adjustments in order to make them applicable to their service component or to the mission of that service component. Next slide. And so there is a general requirement of what needs to be submitted with for a DOD, SBIR, and STTR proposal package. Typically, you will see the 5 different volumes, with the volume 1 being the proposal cover sheet, then a technical volume, followed by a cost volume. There needs to be some sort of company commercialization report, and then there's a volume for additional documentation. The additional documentation will differ depending on a service component that you're looking at, and everything will be outlined that is required in the DSIP or the Defense SBIR STTR Innovation Portal. I want to bring attention to that technical volume piece though. Even though it is required across service component, the requirements for that actual technical volume are going to look very different across components. And that is kind of what we're going to jump in and talk about for the rest of this webinar. just exploring the differences and requirements for available open topics that are active now. Next slide. Okay. So we're going to start off with the Air Force and Space Force open topics. Air Force open topics have been around the longest and really are the base that a lot of the other service components are following. The Air Force Research Laboratory supports the Air Force and Space Force SBIR, STTR efforts. So if you're looking for something that is focused on on the Space Force, it's going to be housed under the Air Force call. So there's multiple opportunities underneath that one topic. And then the award ceilings will depend on the component and then the opportunity as well. And I wanted to outline just general opportunities within that open topic within SBIR and STTR. Within Air Force and Space Force. Air Force and Space Force also call their open topics commercial solutions opportunities or commercial solution openings. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through documentation, as you're looking through solicitations, there is going to be a lot of different acronyms. At any point, if you are confused or need additional clarification, please reach out to FAST locations and we're more than happy to help. So for Space Force here with phase 1, there are 2 different approaches. They launched their Space Force program with the Orbital Prime program. That was an STTR opportunity. So they required small businesses to partner with a research institution. Those awards, the period of performance there was only 5 months with a award ceiling of $250,000. They also, with Space Force phase 1, they also allow SBIRs. Those are a lot shorter at 3 months and a award ceiling of $75K. The Air Force as well has that similar 3-month approach where for $75,000, you have a period of performance of 3 months, and you're really looking for that customer within the Air Force or within the Space Force to get a customer memorandum signed. And that really is the large deliverable that is associated with that really short period of performance of 3 months. When you apply to these opportunities, you will typically hear back within about 30 days. And when you hear back on that 30th day, your period of performance starts. With your proposal application, you already sign a contract stating that if we are selected, we're going to hit the ground running as soon as we are. Air Force also has a direct to phase 2 opportunity that can be an SBIR or an STTR for a period of performance, maximum period of performance of 21 months. And a award ceiling of $1,250,000. Can we go back? Part of that direct to phase 2 application is going to be that customer memorandum. So a lot of folks, they're really excited about, the more than 1 million mark because they really want to focus on that prototyping part. But keep in mind, you really need to have a relationship with an Air Force customer or an Air Force end user, somebody that is able to buy that product from you to sign a customer memorandum that has to be included in that direct to phase 2 proposal package. Next slide. Okay, and so I already mentioned that all of these service components are going to have a little bit of variation in their technical volume. I just wanted to, and we will highlight just slight differences. We're going to talk about requirements for active proposals, but right now, Air Force and Space Force, this is based on their most recent release. So for that technical volume, the Space Force phase 1, for that STTR opportunity or that Orbital Prime program, applicants were required to submit 10 slides and then a 5-page white paper. For SBIR opportunities or that 3-month period performance with $75K, small businesses have to submit at least 11 required slides, but can submit up to 25 slides. So you're submitting a pitch deck to that opportunity. The same goes for the Air Force phase 1 with the SBIR opportunity requiring those 11 slides, but you can go up to 25 depending on the structure of your small business. And then for that direct to phase 2 opportunity, it is a little bit of a heavier lift with a 15-page white paper, and you also need to make sure to include that customer memorandum. We do include links right there to AFWorks and SpaceWorks. A lot of these service components, they are focusing on this commercialization aspect or taking small businesses past phase 2 and actually into procurement with phase 3. And they've created these works organizations. So SpaceWorks, they can really help you with Space Force opportunity, and AFWorks with Air Force opportunities. Next slide. One back. Okay. So with these topics, they are open topics, but the Air Force and Space Force, they do want you to follow their core missions or focus on capabilities that they're trying to improve. So Space Force, Air Force, very similar to topics that they have. They both have this blue sky option though, which truly makes this an open topic. The blue sky option is for solutions that provide capability in a previously unconsidered area. So really, the sky is endless. The limits are endless. You can fall into more of these capabilities as you are creating your full proposal package. Really make sure that shines in that narrative portion. You don't want to overstretch yourself and say, we fit all of these missions. Sometimes it's better to focus, on 1, 2, 3, maximum 3 core missions that you align with the most. And keep in mind, this is a truly open topic with that blue sky opportunity where small businesses can submit basically any topic, any solution to problems that the Air Force or Space Force have not identified yet. Next slide. Okay, so here is an outline of their solicitation cycles. Like I mentioned, Air Force has been around for a little while with their open topics. Space Force just joined on, but they have more than that one required topic release. The next phase 1 opportunities are going to be releasing close to the end of August. So make sure that you go into DSIP or that Defense SBIRSTTR Innovation Portal and sign up for the listserv so you can be on the mailing list. The mailing list will let you know when that pre-solicitation period opens. During that pre-solicitation period, small businesses can actually reach out to those technical points of contact and ask alignment questions. Once that period is over, it is open competition, so questions are no longer allowed. There is a public Q&A, but sometimes it really, there's lots and lots of questions. It isn't guaranteed that the technical point of contact can get back to your question. So next slide. Okay, so Air Force was the base. Air Force really created and drove other agencies to follow their footsteps in these open topics and this opportunity through open topics. Now you'll see how different service components are applying these open topics. And remember, the list that Kathy provided earlier, all of those service components are going to be releasing open topics by the end of the year. So the Army open topics are offered as competitions or through solicitations, and award ceilings will depend on opportunity. And you will see this with every agency. They're kind of going through their first cycle right now. Things are going to change and are going to be adapted from this cycle. So Army phase 1, they have released, they've had a few cycles of this open topic. It hasn't been truly open because it has had kind of a overarching topic or goal of that open topic. So they had a immersible and wearable technologies open topic. They didn't say what the solution looks like. They just identified that problem and were looking to they were looking to small businesses to solve that problem. So they identified that they want solutions that create better wearable technologies, weren't 100% sure where to go with that, and we're looking to these open topics for small businesses to pitch solutions. They also just had one with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And typically for that SBIR process, it is going to be 3 months, a period of performance of 3 months and 150K. They also have a competition program. So this is a little bit different, still requires small businesses to submit either a white paper, some require videos, but it isn't that full proposal package. So they have the TechX program, and we provide links to that in the next few slides, but it's a phased competition with contracting opportunities for winners. And there they are using that open topic approach, but are having a general theme with that open topic. So for example, they're in an active clean tech one right now. So clean tech, open topic, X tech competition, lots of little acronyms there. And then they're also focusing on one right now for autonomy. Next slide. Okay. And for that phase one, as phase one open topic with Army, the most recent requirements were a 5-page technical volume, an 8-slide commercialization plan, and then a statement of work. Overall, that is a pretty light lift. You'll see some of these agencies, they require like a 20-page proposal package. Some of them require even higher than that, going up to 60. So, you know, these aren't a large lift, and they'll get you at least communicating with the program managers or technical points of contact. There are also going to be different deliverables for every agency. So really keep in mind when you look at that solicitation, are you aware of what you need to deliver within that really short period of time? And with this phase one opportunity so far, about 24 small businesses went through the phase one with the immersive and wearable technologies, all awarded $150K, and about 400 proposals were selected for their second open topic with that intelligence and artificial intelligence and machine learning. So overall, open topics, it's growing, and now is a really good opportunity to become aware of the program and how to navigate it. Next slide. Okay, and here's that phased approach for the X-Tech competitions. You see, it'll look a little bit different for the different general themes or topics that they have. Here we have, you know, with phase one, there's a concept paper that needs to be submitted. Typically about 40 to 50 folks get accepted to that and then go into phase two. You're only eligible for phase one, for phase two if you've been successful in phase one, and so on and so forth. As you can see here, for phase four, there actually is the opportunity to submit a direct to phase two SBIR proposal. And from the way that this is structured, that final SBIR proposal is going to be geared towards those 15 folks. And the application for that phase one and to actually enter phase one will look different depending on competition, but typically they will require some sort of short concept paper, maybe a white paper. They'll really look at that dual use of your technology and then look at that benefit to that service component. Some may require short videos. Again, just keep in mind that there is variations to this. It is changing. It is very, very mobile right now. And nothing is solidified. So I would go to that website, the xtech.army.mil, and really explore what opportunities are there and see if you get inside this phase program competition. Next slide. Okay, and now we're going to go into some of the other agencies that are participating. DARPA is also participating in this open topic opportunity. They have a phase one that is active right now, accepting solicitations. It is an SBIR for 9 months at $275K. The open topic is right there with its solicitation number listed. If you go to the DSIP website, you can search that solicitation number and it'll pull up the requirements for this topic. The objective is listed there as well. Be really aware of what the objectives are. Be really aware of what the technology readiness levels are. It is going to vary between service component, so keep that in mind. And each service component, even though there is a larger Department of Defense broad agency announcement, each service component is going to have an individualized announcement for their open topic. So DARPA has their own requirements for this topic. And if you're having trouble finding those or need resources, connect to us. We're more than happy to send it your way. Next slide. Okay, and so here's where all of those little nuances and changes start popping up between agencies. So DARPA's open topic isn't going to be just a full submission like it is with Army or with Air Force, it actually requires a two-step proposal submission process. The first step is to submit a at maximum 3-page white paper to that Defense Innovation Portal that I mentioned by August 10th at 12 p.m. Eastern. And this again, remember how I said generally earlier, this opportunity allows small businesses to submit up to 3 white papers to this open topic. This isn't going to be the same across service components. Some service components are only allow 1. Here you're allowed to submit up to 3. And applicants will be invited to submit a full proposal within 30 days if there is alignment. What I will recommend, though, is if you believe that there is alignment and you've written that 3-page white paper, don't just wait around for those 30 days and wait for that answer. Start getting some materials ready. You can work on, volume 1. You can get that cover sheet going. You can start looking at that cost volume. You can work on volume 4, the commercialization of your company. So there's additional things you can get started as you wait to hear back. And the reason why is if you are invited to submit a full proposal, it is going to be a 20-page technical volume here with a 5-page commercialization plan. So that's 25 pages that have to be written up. You don't want to wait until that final minute and get all of that written. Start creating things right now, create an outline to what you want to include in your proposal and have that ready for when you are chosen to submit. And even if you aren't chosen this time, that is okay. Having this outline and having, something written to describe your small business, that is okay. And that can be easily applied to other opportunities that come about. Next slide. Okay. And now we're going to jump into the Defense Health Agency. They also are releasing open topics for this solicitation release. They actually have a direct to phase 2 opportunity. It is an SBIR opportunity for a period of performance of 24 months with an award ceiling of $1,300,000. The open topic, again, it has a theme, right? They're not asking you to submit any idea that you think might fit within DHA. So they really are focused on the cornea or protecting eye health of our soldiers. And then this topic is for technology that is already proven, has proven feasibility, and is going to be ready to move directly into phase 2. So here's again, those nuances that you'll start seeing between the agencies. They are all required to have these open topics, but the structure, the path, the word ceiling is going to look different between the service components. Next slide. Okay. This one, similar to DARPA, it is going to have the 2-step proposal submission process. This is going to be a tight turnaround. If you're interested in DHA and if you have a technology that can solve their problems, the first step is to have a 2-page white paper submitted to DSIP by July 18th. So that is going to be, I believe, Monday or early next week. So really, really quick turnaround, but also it is 2 pages. Here again, there is nuances. A small business can only submit 1 white paper. So do you have, time this weekend? If this is a match for your innovation, if this is a match for your technology, do you have some time this weekend to pull together that white paper and get it submitted by the 18th? And then step 2 of this process is small applicants. If you are found to be aligned and to be a match with what they're looking for, you will be invited to submit a full proposal by August 8th. And then that full proposal package is due on the 23rd. So that is, not that long, not a very long time to put together 60 pages talking about what you've done. But keep in mind, this is a direct to phase 2 opportunity. So you need to, as a small business, show why you don't need that feasibility testing. Why is phase 1 justified? Why are you able to jump directly to phase 2? And then think about that really long period of performance, up to 24 months. You need to create a 40-page phase 2 technical proposal describing the work, the deliverables, the milestones associated with that phase 2 being successful. Next slide. Okay. And then the final agency that has final service component that has released open topics is going to be Navy. With Navy, there are 8 topics available, and then award ceilings in the future may depend on opportunity, but for their first time in open topics, it is all going to be the same. So there's 8 different topics here. They're all open topics. They do want something that has a higher technology readiness level, so keep that in mind. For phase 1, there is Navy is allowing you to go through that base and option portion. 4 months for a period of performance for base and award ceiling of 75K. For that option portion, it's going to be an additional 6 months with an award ceiling of 100,000. Next slide. And the full applications for this are going to be due in a month and a day on April 15th. Here, applicants can only submit 1 proposal package per topic. So you can submit up to 8 proposal packages since there are 8 topics, but keep in mind, put your effort where you think that there's going to be the highest amount of reward. And here for the technical volume, you do need a 10-page technical proposal. And then in that 10-page limit, if you are going after that option phase, really making sure that you are distinguishing base and option and what work will be required and how effort will be allocated. Next slide. Okay, and so, talking to these technical points of contact for granting contracting agencies can be a little bit scary and overwhelming. There are tools that they are familiar with that will be helpful to you to explain your technology, direction, company, and needs. And that tool is called a quad chart. And if we go to the next slide, we'll talk briefly about that. So the quad chart is really like a really brief 1-pager for you to showcase what that technology is, what your company and who is included in your company, what research needs to be completed before your product is ready to be sold, and then what that opportunity is that you have identified. So here, we've just filled in kind of brief things you can talk about for each section. For that technology development portion, you can highlight key aspects of it, include a picture of it, include that TRL level or MRL, manufacturing readiness level, to really make it clear for that technical point of contact of, are you aligned with what their needs are at this point? Include what that technology does. We all want to hide our proprietary information, but keep in mind, if you fill this out and it all says, proprietary, there's nowhere where that technical point of contact can go. So what you want to do, and this is again a skill in entrepreneurship, is to be able to talk about your technology without giving away any of that secret sauce. So again, practice, and that is something that takes some time, and this is a really great tool to apply that to. Practice talking about your technology in a way without giving away any proprietary information. Include if there's any intellectual properties in place, and then talk about that value proposition. The value proposition for DOD is going to be very specific to that service component. So really make sure that you are investigating and looking at the mission and objectives and directions for your identified service component. For that company introduction, there really include what is your mission, what is your goal, and then included some background on the operations of that company. If, for example, for your research need, you identify that you need access to a mass spec, really make sure that in that company introduction or in that research need, you are outlining or showing a pathway to getting access to those instruments that will be necessary for you to go through that period of performance and complete all objectives. For that research need, think about what are your technical and commercial objectives, and then what are some key technical risks or challenges that need to be overcome in order to validate feasibility. Or if we are going and if we're interested in a direct phase 2, think about what needs to be changed about your commercial ready product in order for it to fit Department of Defense or military needs. And then for that opportunity, they're really focused on what problems is that service component facing and how can your technology help them overcome that problem. With these open topics, a lot of times service component won't even be able to identify or visualize what that solution looks like. So use this opportunity space to really describe what problem you are solving for them. And then Department of Defense, they always like to see what are those dual use applications. Keep in mind, they want to be that final customer, want to buy that product from you, but they also want to see that you are thinking of other ways to generate revenue. And if we go to the next slide, there is just a brief example of a fake company that filled this out. Use this as a guide. And you can use these quad charts as you are reaching out to technical points of contact and saying hi, giving them a background on who you are, what you're delivering, what you're designing, but then also say, I'm attaching my quad chart for your consideration. It summarizes our work, our effort, and our direction. Next slide. Awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. We know this was a lot of information, and keep in mind, this information is going to keep changing. The topics that are released now are really going to be that first full effort of multiple agencies going through open topics. But keep in mind, there is going to be another broad agency announcement with DOD at the end of August. And when it is announced, we anticipate a lot more open topics being available. So use this as a nice starting point to visualize what these open topics are, what requirements are, what that TRL level looks like, and keep in mind that there is going to be slight nuances between every service component. And as you navigate this, you're not by yourself. Feel free to reach out if you are in through NMFAS. We're more than happy to help you. If you're not in New Mexico, we have a lot of partners across all states that are able to help you through this process, and we will get you connected to support. And with that, we have a few minutes for some questions if there are some.